Welcome students. My name is Dr. Ashok Kumar Mohanty. I am working as a principal scientist at Animal Biotechnology Center, National Dairy Research Institute, Karnal. In the lab itself, when we are doing biology, we are following different aspects of it. One of the most potential area of late has been mass spectrometry. By using mass spectrometry, we can determine the exact mass of a molecule. When we are talking of a molecule, this may be proteins, this may be small molecules in the natural substances, and subsequently we can identify those small molecules with the help of mass spectrometry.
Module on mass spectrometry is covered under two different parts. This is part B of the module. It is advised that student learn first part A and then proceed to part B.
Now we will talk about the application of mass spectrometry. Almost every discipline of science is benefited from the mass spectrometry. First of all, in the field of proteomics. The application of this mass spectrometry in the area of proteomics is to identify a protein from the mass of its peptide fragments, detect specific post-translational modification throughout complex biological mixtures, quantitation, relative or absolute, where we will quantitate the proteins in a given sample, then determination of protein structure, function, folding and interaction. Some conclusion can be made from the masses and after identification of the proteins. We can also monitor the enzyme reaction, chemical modification, protein digestion, etc. Through the process of mass spectrometry. Secondly, there is drug discovery, which determine the structure of drugs and metabolites, screening of various metabolites in the biological systems. Third area is clinical testing. So, this perform forensic analysis such as confirmation of drug abuse, detect disease biomarkers such as newborn screen metabolic diseases and various other biomarkers for the detection of different diseases. In genomics also mass spectrometry has been used, where we can determine the sequence of the oligonucleotides. It has environmental application as well, where for example, water quality can be tested, food contamination also can be tested by using mass spectrometry. In geology also it has applications which will measure the petroleum composition, it will perform carbon dating, etc. So, now let us come in detail about the proteomics, because mass spectrometry has these days been used extensively in proteomics applications, where we are trying to identify and quantify different proteins which are present in a given sample. So, what is proteomics? That means proteomics is a branch of science to study a large set of proteins together, and simultaneously this will be able to identify as many proteins as possible. It is different from the classical approach, where usually only one or two proteins could be studied at a time, but by using mass spectrometry we can identify thousands of proteins in one go. We know that the biological functions are the outcome of many proteins which are working together. Therefore, proteomics is helping us to understand the biological problems in more perfect way than what was possible in the past. Mass spectrometry can generate information about all proteins on identification, quantitation, modification, interactions and possible functions as well. What are the various methodologies which are used for the proteomics experiments? Basically, there are three important steps to most of the proteomics experiments. Number one is the sample preparation. This is the most important aspects. If a sample is bad, you cannot be able to identify them. So, this is the first step, where you should be able to extract your sample, which should be relatively purified and should be free from unwanted substances which will interfere in their identification. That is why preparation of a complex protein mixture from a sample should be done with utmost care. Second thing is separation of protein mixture. Suppose we have many proteins which are mixed together. One protein may be present in high amount, If a particular protein is present in high amount, this will mask the low abundant proteins. So, what to do in that case? That means we have to resolve those proteins into less complex samples and subsequently they can be analyzed. That is why resolving in simpler fractions can be done by liquid chromatography and other aspects. For example, SDS phase, 2D phase, HPLC, chromatography and following various chromatographic principles. Third important aspect is identification and quantitation of protein within the mixture by mass spectrometry. So, to point out three specific aspects, one is how you are preparing the sample, second thing is how you have made your sample less resolved, less complex, so that you will be able to identify as many proteins as possible, and subsequently you will be able to identify and quantify these proteins within the mixture with optimum results. Let us come to the sample preparation. First of all, when we talk of the sample preparation, we have to extract the protein, which is done by various methods including cell lysis with a chemical buffer, sonication or by precipitation. When we are doing any mass spectrometry based application, we have to be very careful that it is free from salt. That is why low salt in protein sample is desirable for mass spectrometry. If the salt concentration is more, this will hinder and subsequently this will also make problems to the mass spectrometer. That is why we have to be very careful during the sample preparation where it should be relatively free from salt. We should also be careful to prevent any contamination of unwanted substances, and also we should protect the sample from getting degraded. And there are some proteins which are very difficult to purify, like membrane bound or more lipidous proteins as in brain tissue. So, you have to follow different protocols in order to identify and quantify the membrane bound proteins or proteins which are lipidous in nature. There are different sample preparation techniques, and basically there are two types of separate techniques. One is gel based and one is non-gel based. In gel based separation, the extract proteins are either separated by SDS phase in a single dimension or in two dimensions using 2D electrophoresis method, where proteins are first separated on the basis of isoelectric point for each protein followed by SDS phase, which further resolve protein based on their molecular weight. The second thing is liquid chromatography based separation. It is a gel free method where a complex protein mixture is resolved into different fractions using different kinds of chromatographic techniques like ion exchange or gel filtration or affinity chromatography, etc. Let us see when you go for a mass based experiment step by step. Or first of all, we have prepared the sample, then we have run them in SDS space or two dimensional SDS space, or it is a gel free system where it is not run in the gel. If we are running this protein in the gel, then we have to excise the protein bands. These bands are digested by the trypsin or any other enzymes which is suitable for mass spec. This will be able to produce a mixture of peptides, and these peptides are subsequently subjected to either chromatography, make it less complex, and subsequently those peptides are desalted. After desalting, these peptides are introduced into the mass spec. When the peptides are introduced in the mass spec, in the source itself they will be ionized and they will enter into the mass analyzer, and then they will be detected, and subsequently all other protocols will be followed in order to identify these things. So, when these peptides enter into the mass spec, the concentration of a particular peptide is detected in terms of intensity. So, in the x axis, if it is the peptides or any substance, in the y axis it will be the intensity. So, which will actually define how much of a particular peptide is present. So, when this enters, peptides enter into the mass spec, as I have already told, first of all it will determine the intact mass. So, that is the precursor mass, and subsequently these precursor mass is further fragmented, that is known as MSMS, which will help us to identify the sequence of those peptides, and those sequence information will be represented in the form of various ions like B and Y ions. They will be used to determine the sequence and further identification. So, we have different workflow for analysis of the data after we generate the data. So, when a peptide enters into the mass spectrometer, you will get all this data in the form of spectra. Those spectra have to be converted to, and we have to use various open data formats. First of all, spectrum identification will be done with the help of a search engine. Third aspect is the validation of the identifications, that means the molecules or proteins which we have identified has to be seen whether they are true or no by following various parameters. If we are looking to quantify those peptides, then we have to follow various softwares in order to quantify them. This may be label free techniques or this may be label techniques if you compare various peptides in different samples. And then subsequently we have to organize them in a local data management system and interpret the protein list, and then subsequently transfer those protein lists to the data repository. So, when we identify a particular protein using mass spectrometry, how exactly it is done? All peptides in the given sample are listed as M by Z, that is mass by charge, by the mass spectrometer. So, as I have been told, proteases, suppose for example trypsin cut at the defined site in a protein. So, this trypsin cuts at the C terminal of the lysine or arginine, that means after lysine and arginine. Likewise, there are many other enzymes which can also be used to determine the peptides, and those peptides can be used for their identification. So, the proteins which are cut with an enzyme will give a series of peptides of different masses. So, these different proteins will give different series of peptides, and this is the peptide mass fingerprinting of protein. That means, when a series of peptides are generated, they will have specific mass which are seen in the form of M by Z, and those masses can be used for identification. That means, these peptides will form as the fingerprint for a series of proteins which are present in the samples. But when we are generating the peptide fingerprint, every protein has its own peptide fingerprint. For example, we take the example of alcohol dehydrogenase, which has a mass of around more than 40 kilodalton, which constitutes 374 amino acids, and if you cut it with trypsin, this gives 26 peptides which are greater than 500 dalton. So, you can see a series of peptides in these slides. The second protein is a guanine nucleotide binding protein alpha 1,5. It has 374 amino acids, and if you cut this with a particular enzyme trypsin, this gives 31 peptides which are having mass greater than 500 dalton. And now we compare alcohol dehydrogenase and guanine nucleotide binding protein. These peptides have to be compared. You see, there is no match, they do not match. So, if you look at the two list of peptide masses, you will not see any match. So, we have to identify when you have got some mass that is specific to a particular protein. For example, as I told, in the alcohol dehydrogenase, we have got 26 peptides, and this is a particular isoform alcohol dehydrogenase 7. Suppose we take another enzyme alcohol dehydrogenase beta 2, which has 375 amino acids, and this gives 25 peptides which are greater than 500 dalton. Now, we compare alcohol dehydrogenase 7 isoform with alcohol dehydrogenase beta 2, and you will see that hardly there is any match. That means, there is a difference of the amino acid sequences. After you have digested with trypsin, there is no match except at two places where 885.5404 and 580.3341 matches to other two peptides. Now, you will ask me a question. If there are two peptides which are matching in both these proteins, how come we will be able to identify the protein? We think that there are two peptides are matching, but apart from these two peptides, there are many other peptides who do not match. So, the software takes care of these things where it tried to match that the peptides which are not matching. That means they will be called as unique peptides, which is specific to a particular protein. So, in a mass spectrometry, we take care of the unique peptides which are specific to a particular protein in terms of the mass up to the 4th digit. So, this kind of precision in terms of their mass is not going to be repeated in other protein. So, the beauty of mass spec is it will be able to precisely tell the mass of a particular peptide which is present in protein, and it is not going to be repeated in other proteins. So, mass of two peptides from two different proteins can be same. To avoid such misinterpretation, we can go for MSMS, that means breaking down these mass into further fragments. So, MSMS is done so that every peptide results in typical daughter fragments. As I have already told, one is a precursor ion and the other is a daughter ion. So, peptide fragments in a predictable way from an MSMS spectrum, we can work out the peptide sequence, and normally a peptide of more than 7 amino acids should be sufficient to uniquely identify a particular protein. So, now we have generated the spectrum. Now, we have to look for searching the protein we are looking for. It is usually difficult to identify the peptide sequence by looking at the mass spectrum of B and Y ions. To say that when the fragmentation of the peptides take place, the fragmentation can take place from different side. Either it can take from the C terminal side or it can take from the N terminal side. So, it has been named as B and Y ions, which are normally used for determinants of the sequence of particular peptide. Many search algorithms have been developed which uses the organism annotated database to find a match between experimental mass spectrum and theoretical peptides from the database. For example, we have taken some sample from human being serum. Now, we have extracted the protein, we have digested it, we have prepared the peptides. Now, we use the human database in order to identify those proteins. This gives a particular score, and these peptides, although they are present in other organisms like bovine and other primates, their sequence may vary from species to species. So, normally when we are using any sample from a particular source, to identify them we have to use the same database. For example, we have taken some sample from bovine. So, you have to first of all use the bovine database. From the bovine database we are not getting any hits, then we have to go for other mammalian database just to identify them. So, in order to identify these proteins, there are few search engines which are very popular. One is Extandem, is open source, Mascot is a proprietary item, Sequest, MyRematch, MSGFDB, Phoenix, OMSA, and we have MaxQuant and many other. So, students, till now we have discussed about the basic principle of mass spectrometry, then how we are using this mass spectrometry to identify various proteins. Then I told about for identification of various proteins, how we can prepare the samples, and after preparation of these samples, how we can use the mass spectrometry in order to identify. When we are identifying the protein, many questions arises. Suppose we have identified those proteins, what is next? If you have gone for a gel based proteomics, individual protein spots can be picked up and subsequently they can be identified. So, individual protein spots has been identified. But if you are going for a gel based, gel free technique, in that case you are not using any gel. You have the protein mixture in a sample and you have digested them. So, you have a mixture of peptides, then you have used those mixture in order to identify. So, you are expected to get many proteins. So, in one hand you have got one protein, in the other hand you have a mixture of proteins. What to do with this one? When you are getting hundreds of proteins, how it will solve your problems? There are basically two different ways we can do. First of all, we can profile. In a particular protein mixture, if something is there, then we have prepared the peptides. So, we can profile as many as possible, that is called as mining of the proteins. Second aspect is differential expression. How to go for differential expression? Suppose one is a control, the other one is treated. That means you have a control sample where no treatment has taken place, in the other you have given some treatments. Now you want to see the differential expression of proteins because of a treatment. For example, you take one person is suffering from cancer and other person is normal. Now you want to see what are the various proteins which are expressed differentially in the serum. So, you have to take the serum, that means you have to take the blood first, prepare the serum, extract the protein from the serum, digest the peptide separately, and then you can go for differential expression analysis. How will go for differential expression analysis? In the mass spec there are a label free technique and there is a label technique. So, in the label free technique you do not need to label the peptides with any isobars or any other fluorophores, but in case label techniques there it has to be various isobars has to be taken. For example, ITRAC is a technique where different isobars are separately, the proteins are separately, the peptides are separately labeled by various isobars, then we mix them together and go for identification of differentially expressed proteins. In a gel based, you can go for dyes, that is differential in gel electrophoresis, or you can run normal gel, then you can correlate them where there is differentially expressed proteins and subsequently digest them, prepare the peptides and identify those proteins. So, these days many clinical laboratories are trying to identify a number of biomarkers which can be used for detection of various disorders and diseases, etc. Another area which we have not discussed is the post-translational modifications. That means a particular at the transcriptome level, if a gene is expressed in the form of a transcript, we cannot know where actually the modification will take place. But when a particular transcript is translated into protein, various post-translational modifications such as phosphorylation, glycosylation, etc. takes place. So, to identify the post-translational modifications, mass spectrometry can be used where exactly we can identify that where the post-translational modification has taken place. I will not talk much about this thing because we have at length discussed various application of mass spectrometry and how it can be applied in proteomics aspects. So, dear students, to sum up my lecture, today I have discussed about the principle of mass spectrometry and various parts of the mass spectrometer and how can use this mass spectrometry in order to identify the proteins, not only identification but also quantitation of those proteins in order to identify a particular biomolecule you are interested in. Apart from the quantitation, mass spectrometry can be used for post-translational modification of the proteins which are phosphorylation and glycosylation, etc. So, mass spectrometry has many different applications in different areas, but in discovery of biomarkers, many clinical companies are working in different aspects and they have been relatively successful. When the mass spectrometry data has been generated, this mass spectrometry data has to be analyzed by using various bioinformatics tools, and many free softwares are available and those bioinformatics tools can be used for further data analysis. So, students, you have hopefully you have listened to my talk very carefully and I am sure you have been able to get some idea about the mass spectrometry and its various applications. Thank you so much for your patience to listen my talk, and in future I will invite you any suggestions you want to give me which will help us to improve our talk and the lecture. Thank you so much.